I look like I got run over by a tractor. My hair's, I feel like a drowned rat.
Yeah.
This is Lindsay King. She's your typical college student. Curly brown hair and bright green eyes, a dual major in English and French, and part of the rally committee at UC Berkeley.
My legs feel pretty good. I'm ready to haul.
Typical except for one thing. She's run 40 miles in the past 8.5 hours and still has another 10 miles to go. On this hot and sunny Saturday, Lindsay is running an ultra marathon, any race longer than 26.2 miles. This one is 50 miles. That's like running from Berkeley to San Jose, or running back and forth over the Bay Bridge 29 times. But it's not the distance Lindsay is even worried about. It's time.
I hauled some ass this morning. I've slowed down a little bit, but that's okay.
She's trying to finish the run in under 11 hours so she can qualify for a 100-mile race at the end of June. She started at 6 in the morning. Now it's 2:30, so she has 2.5 hours to finish the last 10 miles. She feels pretty confident, but her mom is getting nervous.
Yeah, we're going to have to haul.
I can haul. I got a lot. All right, you're a minute behind last year. Okay, let's go.
At 21, Lindsay is one of the youngest runners in the race. Most runners come to these races, called ultras, later in life, possibly driven by midlife crises. But Lindsay only ran her first 50K, or 31 miles, 2 years ago as a teenager.
The first 50K I did, which was basically my first ultra run, I had no idea from the outset that I was going to be running that far. It was basically a run as far as you like sort of deal. We do a New Year's Eve run with my running club back at home in the Central Valley. And so I had showed up to that day and hadn't really been running much. And I was like, okay, well, I think I could do maybe 15 miles. And I kept going and I felt really good. And we had a club member, Barbara, who's also an ultra runner, who always does a 50K on New Year's Eve, but she kind of coaxed me into continuing with her, and I told her, Barb, I'm like, okay, well, I'll go as far as I think I can go with you, and once I'm done, I'll be done. And for me, being done actually ended up being 31 miles, so that was my first ultra.
Now, Lindsay is committed.
That sense of achievement that really fuels your drive to keep going, and particularly I think that's what really fuels me, just seeing how far I can go and being able to go past all of my preconceived notions of what a human can and cannot do.
Lindsay has those preconceived notions for a reason. In the past 3 years, 6 people in the U.S. have died during or immediately after a marathon, a quarter of what Lindsay hopes to run. Even if most marathons aren't deadly, they still wreak havoc on a runner's muscles. Runners waddle for days after the race. So why do ultra runners go even farther? Mike Palmer, a veteran runner who has run 100-mile races nearly 24 times, explains.
To be honest, I think a lot of people do it out of personal pride, and we all have egos. A lot of doing it is just realizing that you can do it and that it's not such a formidable thing. I think a lot of people can't imagine it if they've never run much and they've never really done much except maybe a half hour on the treadmill.
Marathons, which used to be the ultimate test of endurance, have become commonplace. In 2007, 400,000 runners, more than half the population of San Francisco, finished a marathon in the U.S. So then maybe ultra runners are driven to cover longer and longer distances to stay ahead of the pack, completing bigger challenges that other runners can't or won't do. Lindsay says most of her friends are mystified by her grueling hobby.
A lot of them think I'm insane. I think the general public would probably agree with that.
Lindsay is pretty unique. Just 7% of marathon finishers last year were under 25. So she doesn't need to go as far as older runners to prove herself. Why does she do it? Especially when her training, which includes 10 hours of running every weekend, really shapes her life as a college student.
I'm not out, partying until 1 or 2 in the morning because I know that on Saturday morning I need to get up and be out the door running by 6 or 7. But I think for me, what I do as an ultra runner is a lot more meaningful than it would be, to look back in 20 years and remember that one crazy night.
At the 50-mile finish line, it starts to look like Lindsay's sacrifices might not have been enough. At 4:30, only a half hour away from Lindsay's 11-hour goal, runner after runner sprints to the finish as the crowd cheers. Soon it's 4:45, only 15 minutes away. What if she doesn't make it? But then...
Number 366, Lindsay King, 21 years old, from Modesto.
Lindsay tears across the finish line and then collapses into a chair.
Thank you. Oh my God. Oh, I didn't think I was going to make it.
Lindsay's time qualifies her to enter the lottery for the 100-mile race in June. Tonight, she'll sleep, and then she'll be back on the trails.
Leave me breathless.
For Northgate Radio, I'm Claire Tregesser.